by the military-industrial complex.
It could be seen to move violently forward, violently forward, violently forward.
I'm just a patsy.
Let's win there.
I have a dream.
I said this once or twice, but it bears repeating. If you like your current insurance, you will keep your current insurance.
You think about the Army and the Navy and the missions they run to protect the world, they run on SAP.
Well, you have done a really spectacular job. I guess pretty much everybody at this table is your customer, so
Exactly.
that's not so bad.
Exactly.
So I want to congratulate
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks, David.
I need to turn on speakers because I can't hear you, Peter. So I wonder, let me go on and look and see what I'm doing wrong with audio. Audio default, MacBook. Can you hear me now, Peter? Testing.
We can't hear Peter.
I can't hear Peter. No audio on YouTube either, Peter.
He's I hit the mute thing on his. You can see it on his.
Here, I'll do this.
He has to hit the little thing on his bottom line.
The microphones were muted. Can you hear me now, George? Can everything?
Can you hear me now, Peter? I bet you can. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Yes.
I can hear
you. And I think our audience can hear us now too. So, yep, everybody can hear us. Yep.
All right,
and Mark
very
can
good.
hear you.
Hello.
All right,
Peter?
well, it's good to get all the audio straightened out at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
I did a whole show a couple of days ago, and I was not using the microphone in front of me. I've been working out my audio issues, but I just want to let everybody know that the Assault Pitchfork is back. So there it is.
Yes. The Pitchfork is back.
All right, so we have the audio straightened out. That means that we can have a conversation with each other and everybody can hear us. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
George, you're in Michigan. You want to tell people what you're doing?
Yeah, we're reenacting a process that Peter Duke perfected at Disney. He perfected it at NBC.
No. No. I didn't perfect it at Disney. I learned it from Disney Imagineers. Okay.
But he's done it for Virgin. For Virgin, he's done it for Sega Genesis, Spielberg. He's done it for everybody. He's taken this process in to get the best of people's creativity in a shared work setting and get out their incredible productive value added that they offer the world in a timeline deliverable manner. And he adds this process, this transformative process that was either a 2-day process or he had a 3-day process. And we've taken it and said, well, let's just do the Peter Duke process because that's the one that you get all these hit movies and you get all these hit documentaries and you change the world and you save everyone. So let's
how are
copy
you?
from-
So how are you applying that, George, in your current?
Well, what we did was we took I had AI. I said, take the Peter Duke process. And this is where if people are not familiar with, we did this in 2020, where you say, okay, have everybody put all the great ideas up on a whiteboard the first day. And then the second day, no, you don't kill
blue
any
sky, we call that.
Blue sky. You don't kill any of the babies on the first day. And no one's allowed to stab a baby. Idea of being a baby. Nobody's allowed to stab at any of the babies. You just put all the babies up on the board, on the whiteboard. And then the next day you say, well, some of these kids are not destined for greatness, and then you ban at the adolescents, or you sometimes when they get to about 5.
Yeah, you move from blue sky to concept development.
You move from blue sky to concept development. These are the winner ideas. Hey, would it be great to have a young prince marry with no money? A young street urchin with no money marry a princess, and they'll ride a magic carpet together and fall in love, and then we'll call it Aladdin. Get it? Each of them want a different thing. He wants to know her common people. He wants to know what rich people live like. They'll fall in love on the magic carpet, right? It'll be Aladdin, right? So that maybe not a great idea. Maybe curing cancer is the idea, but you get the idea. Is how are you going to do that? And there are some ideas that are good, but some ideas are great. So then when you get to the great ideas over here on the next day, you don't see that list, but you get over here to the ideas on the next day, then you try to work out which one's the most realistic.
So you do, yeah. I'm not sure that the Aladdin example is the best example, but yeah, what you do is you take you present the group with a problem. This is what we're trying to accomplish. You tell the group how you're going to measure the problem, so that they've got some metrics, and then you go around the room and you get everybody to suggest how they think that the problem should be solved. And then, and like you said, there's no bad ideas on the first day. And then on the second day, you go back and you look at all of the ideas that you did on the first day, and you ask people to rank them in a hierarchy. Which ones do they think are the best ideas? So you get a list, good from the best ideas at the top to the worst ideas at the bottom. And then you basically just take the top 3 ideas that you've got, and then you apply feasibility metrics to them, which is how much is it going to cost and how long is it going to take? And then you take a look at it to see whether or not you think that's a good idea. And this is basically the process that's used for building roller coasters, or coming up with theme park rides, or determining what how your project is going to live or die. It's the Disney Imagineering technique. There's more.
Can I say?
Yeah,
there's more to it. I mean, that's why you hire
Well,
Peter
there's more
to do this.
there's more steps, but I was a creative lead, which meant that at the end of feasibility, I was done. I was off the project.
Well, and the way we used it was, our finding was that there was the coronavirus was actually a military live exercise, right? And we said, okay,
George, I got a secret. I got a secret for you, George. It's all military live exercises.
Well, that was our finding. We actually got the video, the bids at Welcome House. We got the bids at WHO. We called it DARPA Adept. That became mRNA. So that was the gist of it. But then how do you communicate that in the most effective way to the audience? And what we decided to do was use Scott Adams, and he had a program called WhenHub. And we decided to use a number of NATO jets flying from a military BSL-4 lab in like Saskatchewan or someplace, or maybe it was Alberta. I can't remember where it was, or maybe Manitoba. But then to show how all these pathogens were flying on this airplane, like Raiders of the Lost Ark. Remember when they have the opener with the plane flying to China? And
we have to find that video,
Ebola.
George. I've scoured my hard drives. I can't find the video, but I'm sure you probably have it somewhere.
I do. Matter of fact, I might even put it in the chat when I find it. But my point was, it wasn't about Armed Diplomatic Security Services. We did a whole week. There wasn't anything about NATO, anybody as far as an Armed Diplomatic Security Services person or anything like that. It was about the lab, the BSL-4 lab, and all the flights with all the coronavirus and Ebola going to this lab that were trying to push remdesivir at this lab in Wuhan. And they were also pushing this spike. They were trying to aerosolize Ebola. They were trying to aerosolize all these different pathogens. It was a 10-year process. So we thought the best way to show the process, and Peter wasn't able to join us the last day, I don't think, or maybe the last day and a half, but we finished it. It was da, 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 with them loading the plane up with the Ebola in the NATO BSL lab, and then da, 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 and the plane was flying to Wuhan, and then it would fly back to get more pathogens. And it was very funny, and we loved the video, and it did show. And we went 7 years where everyone said that didn't happen. Then we found out that did happen. And USAID, it was the program we said it was. It was USAID Predict. It was a 10-year program to aerosolize Ebola and other pathogens. Now we know that, now that Bobby Kennedy and Senator Rand Paul have done the expose at Fort Detrick. We know all these things. So it was kind of a validation of the method that Peter had suggested. It was a nice verification of our facts as well. So, and that's a little bit of a speech at the beginning, but I just wanted to explain what we're trying to do here is do a 5-day version of that and also a 10-day version of that. So people actually get a book out of it at the end, or they get a small book, like a booklet, like 200-page booklet, or a small video explainer, like a 12-minute explainer. We're also doing life stories, so people can write their, life story, and then they can do the quick elevator pitch of their life story if they're trying to, do a merger with another company. Use it in their life. Use news you can use. That's what we're doing.
All right. Well, I wanted to report today from Oxnard, California. I'm in beautiful Oxnard. I'm in beautiful Oxnard, California, and you can't hear them in the background, but there's sea lions barking in the background. But there's a lot of, I'm kind of like when I unregistered to vote, it allowed me to kind of look at the election process in a different way. Moving out of the Santa Monica Pacific Palisades area and just not having it in my face every day has been therapeutic, and also it gives me perspective on things that I wouldn't normally have. So I wanted to go over a couple of videos because this wasn't very hard for me to research. I went into Twitter and I typed in Palisades latest to see whatever the latest dope is on the Palisades. And some of it overlapped with things that you and I talked about this morning. So I thought I would just start by sharing some of that stuff, if that's okay.
Great. Thanks.
Let me see, share screen. Here we go. And again, all I did here was
and can I just set it up real quickly, because this guy sitting next to me, Mark Buckley, we were going to do a totally different topic, and he goes, no, Peter Duke and Palisades and the Chinese buying out Palisades. It's Chinatown on the Palisades on the bluff, so that's what.
Right. Well, I'm gonna start off by reiterating a story that I told you this morning, which is, again, on January 8th at about 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the morning, when my wife and I were in shock. Like, we were completely in shock. I mean, I should have been taking pictures. I look at how many pictures I took, and it looks like a lot, but I also have again, like January 6th, I'm clearly not a photojournalist by trade, because there's all these pictures in my head of things that I remember seeing that I didn't lift my camera up and take pictures of. But one of the things that happened when we were driving around, so our neighborhood had burned to the ground, and we were the only two people, except for the one guy that walked up to us who saved his house. We were the only two human beings between Sunset Boulevard and the Bluffs. At a certain point, a fire truck, Station 69's fire engine drove up. They were lost. half a mile from their fire station and asking me for directions. But the only other people that we saw, there was a black SUV that had 2 Chinese people in it with masks on, and they looked kind of like they were shopping. You know, they didn't look upset or bothered, or they looked like they were doing intelligence scouting, you know, on what just happened. So, um, uh, I don't have pictures. I didn't take my camera up and take a picture. I have the picture in my head, and my wife remembers pointing it out to me, but that was it. So I'm going to go with this thing. I'm going to play. So people are always tagging me with Wall Street apes. I don't follow Wall Street apes as a rule. I might actually have them muted or blocked. I don't have them blocked, or I wouldn't be able to play this, but I don't pay any attention to them because I think that they buy 100% into the dialectic. And as people who follow me know, I don't play dialectic. I don't. So while this video is informative and has good information, I'm not buying into the conclusion here. And we can follow up with that after I start this. Here we go. Let me pull it back, and here we go.
Do you know who's buying up all of the property in the LA fire zones? It's the Chinese. And I've avoided saying this for a while because I knew everybody would call me a racist. But that's just the fact of the matter. I work in both areas daily, both Pacific Palisades and Altadena. And the people driving around looking at the properties to buy them are all Chinese nationals. And I've even had a few of them call me saying, hey, we're buying 5 or 6 lots. Can you build us spec houses? And go ahead, call me a racist. But I think it's sad that California and LA, with their slow reaction time and incompetence, is going to turn both Altadena and Pacific Palisades into the type of neighborhoods where you drive down and all of the signage is in Chinese. You can't read it. You can't understand it. Here in America, because of incompetence. Do you know who's buying up all of the property in the LA fire zones?
All right. So the reason that I completely disagree with this guy is because I don't think it's incompetence. Okay. And this is the mere agreement frame, right? Where he spends the entire video saying things that I 100% agree with. And then at the very end, he throws in because it's incompetence. Okay. Well, that leaves out all of the other options that it could be, you know? And so in that way, that video is a form of hypnosis. It's a form of epistemological warfare. And even though all of the things that the guy said in it, I agree with, his conclusion at the end, I think, is completely wrong. And so we can start there. The parts that I agree with that I believe are that, so I'll give you some reporting from the ground. George, you can verify this next time you come to LA, okay? And next time you go to Santa Monica, and next time, and when you come to visit me, okay? In the supermarkets in Santa Monica, all of the new employees seem to be Ukrainian. And to me, that says that Kroger or Albertsons or whoever the World Economic Forum grocery store representative is that's taking care of what they're supposed to do in Southern California. They're taking people who are probably the family members of people who were helpful to Zelensky and NATO and moving them kind of like they moved Somalis to Minnesota, right? They're moving them into Southern California. And so you've got a lot of Ukrainians working in supermarkets. I went to the supermarket in Oxnard a couple of days ago, and there was a beautiful, what appeared to be Ukrainian girl who was standing behind the cash register, you know, scanning my groceries, you know. Likewise, I do see a lot of Chinese nationals. The last 4 or 5 walks, my wife and I used to walk on the bluffs every day as kind of, you know, just trying to keep our heads clear, you know. And almost nobody that except for our friends that we had known in the Palisades for decades, most of the people that we walked by in the Palisades when we were taking a walk had an accent. Okay. And many of them were Chinese nationals, and many of them spoke either Russian or Ukrainian. And I could never think about just saying, "Hey, what kind of accent is that?" Because I wanted to say, "Are you Ukrainian or are you Russian?" I should have, I could have said, "What kind of accent is that? Where are you from?" In any case, so these hot zones in the world all wind up becoming places where these people are being repopulated or repatriated, and so it doesn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form that the people walking around who are trying to buy real estate are foreign nationals. But I don't think it's just Chinese. I think it's any place where the CIA has probably been running operations and they've been flooding US dollars into these zones. And the people who have gotten out of these zones and they've been patriated back or moved over to the United States, they're just trying to figure out a way to spend their pallets of $100 bills that they've been given by the intelligence agencies. I don't hear you, George. I think now you're muted, I think. Oh, it says mute. Hang on, I'm going to unmute you. Wait, let me see if I can. There we go. You're unmuted. Wait. It says you're unmuted, but I can't hear you. I actually legitimately, George, wondered whether or not somebody is running X agent on me and just changing the controls on our podcast while we're actually so he's going to dip out and then come back in. Because I checked my audio settings 4 times before I started the show today, and producer Jessica asked me a minute before the show started to check my audio settings, and I checked my audio settings. I told her she can't bug me about it too many times, and I got on and my audio was messed up. So what is that all about? What is that all about? I'm going to go see if there's any questions. You got any questions? Are there any questions while we're in the mood? Well, in the meantime, maybe what I'll do is I'll play an Adam Carolla video. I'm going to go back to Adam Carolla here. Let's see. Can you hear me now, George?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. I was saying I can hear you. Yeah. I was saying. Okay, I was saying as you dipped out. Now you're muted again. I was saying as you dipped out whether or not somebody's running X agent on me or doing some man in the middle on our audio, because I checked my audio 4 times before the show started and I still started off muted, even though I checked it for a 5th time before the show started. And you're muted again.
Well, I'm muting myself, but you go to Adam Carolla.
Okay.
And I'll pick it up from there.
Okay, here we go. Adam Carolla. And let's blow this up. Okay, this may not be the one that I was talking about because he was talking on the one that I was listening to. Hang on a second. Yeah, I know where it is. Hang on, let me go find this other one. Share this tab instead. We'll get off of this guy, who I don't agree with, even though he's got good information. And then Trump had some interesting comments too. So again, Wall Street apes. Somebody says Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone, his house is at BlackRock and is standing next to a bunch of stuff that's been burned down. Was contacted by FEMA and can confirm for the Pacific Palisades is a land grab. He's blaming it on Democrats are bearing the homeowners in structural upgrade costs. Yeah, it's the Democrats, but the Democrats are owned by the oligarchy. So that's a bit of a misdirection. But let's hear what Adam Carolla has to say. I'm going to blow it up. And here we go.
And the other thing that people need to understand is everything here is on septic. Nothing is on a city sewer system. Every dwelling in Malibu has a separate septic system. And these houses in front, many of them were built in the 40s, in the 50s, in the 60s, and the codes were almost non-existent. So they have septic systems that are in place now that are completely unacceptable in 2025 when they rebuild. Not that they'll rebuild in 2025, 2055. When they rebuild, and they're going to have to update the septic system, which means Coastal Commission, Ocean, Sierra Club, dig it all out. And because of the proximity of the ocean, they're going to have to build seawalls so that erosion won't take their septic system. So they're going to be several $1 million into stuff that's buried in the ground, a seawall, not above the ground, but a seawall that's in the ground so that the storm and the erosion can't get to it. New septic system. I mean, they may be $3, $4, $5 million into it before one piece of 2x4 is even put up in terms of framing the new house. Do you know how much bureaucracy, red tape, and permits worth of nightmare this is going to be? Because regardless of whatever the mayor says, whatever the governor says about expediting this stuff, a septic system is a septic system. The code is the code. The seawall is the seawall, and they're all going to happen.
So yeah, it's just that's just one. That's the people who are on the beach. The people who are on the bluffs where you and I used to do our barbecues and hang out, those people have a whole different set of seismic requirements that they're going to wind up having to go through, which is that they're going to have to put in these things called soldier caissons. I think there are these like giant cylindrical columns that they have to sink into the soil, and they're going to have to do that all around the edge of the bluffs. So that's going to take years in order to get to do that. But one of the things that I was thinking about this morning, George, is that the lot that I lived on, and George can confirm this, there were two buildings in my neighborhood. There was one that was around the corner on Via de la Paz, and there was my building, 333 Swarthmore, Jason Goodman, that was zoned for multi-unit. That is, even though it was a small lot, and it was a smaller lot than many of the houses that were on my street, it was zoned for 8 units. And one of the things that Gavin Newsom conveniently did about 90 days before the Palisades fire is that the California State Assembly, and Gavin Newsom signed it, passed a law that said in California that single family lots in California were no longer, no matter what the zoning was, no matter what the city zoning was, that you could build a multifamily unit on a single family lot. Now, that kind of supersedes all the zoning laws in California, meaning that you can build multi-unit. You can take what had a single family house on it, and then you can build a multifamily unit. There have already been 4 or 5 attempts in the Palisades to put multi-unit buildings on what were single family lots. So not only are they buying the single family lots, but they want to put multi-unit on there. And that's goes hand in hand with the $101 million housing for indigents that Gavin Newsom wants to put into the area. Okay, so the thing that's interesting about 333 Swarthmore and that other one lot that was on Via de la Paz, and I could probably pull it up on Google Maps and give you an address, is that those things are already zoned for multi-units. Okay, which means that I don't think that the community could do anything about it if the owner of that property, whoever they wind up being, decided that they wanted to build a multi-unit. So I think that my guess is that it's very likely that there are going to be 8 units built on my lot at 333 Swarthmore eventually. And it's going to wind up becoming a lightning rod for the entire community. I mean, I don't know what you have to think about that, George, but in the meantime,
like Adam Carolla said, when do you get around to actually building? Because the other thing is those houses in the 50s and 60s down along Malibu, along the PCH, were all built on timber piers, and you can't do timber piers anymore. It's got to be concrete piers now. And
I saw a lot. There's a lot of concrete piers down there that I saw.
No, there is a lot of concrete piers, but I'm just saying if your house did have timber piers, that's also another thing that infrastructure costs, like the soldier piers that you have to have up there. But we'll go to the Trump video.
All right, here we go. Here's what Trump had to say.
Almost 25,000 homes. And you see what's happening now. They didn't give their permits. I went to a town hall meeting. I said, we're going to get you the federal permits, which are much harder. Almost immediately, Lee Zeldin is a star. He did an incredible job. They have all their federal permits. They don't have their city permits. And the mayor said to me, we think we could have them in 2 years. I was walking down the street and I met with firemen and police. And I was saying hello to many people that were standing in front of their homes with yellow tape. You can't go in. You can't go onto the lot. And those people wanted to start rebuilding the homes then and there. And the mayor said, we should be able to get them the permits within 2 years. I said, that's a shame. 2 years. Are you kidding? I'm going to get them the federal permit like almost immediately. 2 years. And she roared back. Well, maybe 1 year. The place was booing her out of the place. They don't have their permits to build their homes. And now they're talking about putting, this is among the most beautiful areas was in the country. Now they're talking about putting low-income housing there. Can you believe this? I love low-income housing. I made money with low-income housing. I built low-income housing. I know more about low-income housing and luxury housing. I know about everything real estate. They want to replace some of those homes with low-income housing. They haven't gotten their permits yet. We've gotten all the federal permits, which are much tougher to get, and it was done almost immediately through Lee Zeldin and Federal Environmental. And I watched the other day, those people are angry. And now, you know, they had tremendous, they loved that area. They loved the whole big area, different places, but they loved it. It was all luxury stuff and beautiful stuff. And some wasn't that luxury, but the level of love for that neighborhood, their neighborhoods was incredible. And you know what? I watched people on television. They want to go. They want to leave. They've lost their spirit. They've lost their heart because the mayor's incompetent. And Gavin Newsom is incompetent. Got a good line of bullshit, but that's about it. He's incompetent. And you have Los Angeles is, you know, it's amazing. You know, I called, the first thing I did, I got the Olympics to go there. I was the one that got it. And by a rare thing that happened, I'll be the president. I was very upset because I got the Olympics there and I said, I won't be president when it comes, but bad things happened and illegal things happened, really illegal things happened. Now it turns out one good thing was I'm going to be the president for the Olympics for 2050, for 250, which is going to be fantastic, and also for the World Cup. So we have a
2050. He's going to be the president in 2050.
He means the 250th anniversary of the United States.
Yeah, I know. It's
a lot of good things, and I hope 250 is going to be the 250th anniversary is going to be the best. But when I looked at those people, and I saw last night on television that they still don't have their permits, it's a disgrace what's happened in Los Angeles.
It is a disgrace, but I, you know, calling it a disgrace isn't fixing it. Again, I'm involved with people who are doing what they can to affect change, but as long as you're trying to fix a system from within the system, I don't think that you're going to be able to do it. So
wouldn't the takings clause of the Constitution apply in this?
The which clause?
The takings clause. Okay, that they're, you know, that they're just taking your property from you without just compensation.
Well, what they've done is that they've created multiple layers of, again, I call it the castle keep phenomenon, castle keep strategy of epistemological warfare, which is that you've got so many fallback positions. There's noise that it's climate change. There's noise that it's kids with fireworks. The ATF has been trying to determine a cause of the fire for 7 months now.
I see it as a deliberate forced like depopulation of the state. Like I
completely agree. I completely agree with you. But unless you, unless somebody either if somebody with a loud enough voice and a big enough audience is saying it, or if someone official says it, then something will happen. But you know, we're 60 years into John F. Kennedy's assassination, and Wikipedia still says it's Lee Harvey Oswald. You know,
it only takes 3 people to file a class action lawsuit, and once it's made a class action lawsuit, okay, the burden of proof is lifted off of the plaintiffs and put onto the defendants. They have to prove that they didn't cause the fire. Okay.
The takings clause is the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. It says, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. It's part
They're
of
taking
that.
it for private use.
I know. And this is the thing, they're using Trump's, winning the football as well. The FIFA is coming to LA as well in next year, I think. Maybe the 2027, but then the Olympics in 2028. And now they're bringing in these CCP. This is where you're saying it's a Chinese communist takeover into those luxury apartments. Right. And that's like a political, like moving the commies into the Pacific Palisades.
But even all of the sewer and all of that stuff, they made it expensive by design. Okay. What they had in the 40s, 50s,
yes, 100%. Yeah.
was just fine. But it's like, no, we want to make it so expensive that you can't do it, or you're going to have to pay somebody. Okay, you got to have a new waterworks, all of that,
or someone with more money than you.
Yeah,
right.
It's. I mean, here's the whole thing. There's a pecking order, and there, like I say, the Palisades was probably a third. I would call nouveau riche. So people from Silicon Beach who wanted to have families, who came in and they were buying $5 million, $10 million houses, houses that were, 500,000 or to $1 million, 10 years ago. Right. And then you had about a third of the people who were, people like me, like my ex-wife, people who scraped everything they could to get into the neighborhood 15 years ago. Because they wanted to raise their children in the safest neighborhood in Los Angeles, because it was the safest neighborhood in Los Angeles. And then you have about another third of the people who I would say generational wealth, but not wealthy. And what I meant by that is like the guy who owned the house where I got married. His parents built that house in 1950, I think, 1949 or something. And then his parents passed away and left him the house. And he was a reasonably successful guy, but he wasn't like a super wealthy guy. But he inherited a house that, because of where his parents were smart enough to build it, wound up being worth, $10 million just from the lot that it was on. Well, he could never afford to buy that house ever in his life. Okay. But he managed to receive the house by virtue of the fact that he inherited it, him and his brother. And when it burned to the ground, not only was he woefully uninsured, but the city is going to, because of the location of the house where it's built, whoever rebuilds on that lot is going to have to put in these soldier caissons, and they're going to have to put $250,000 worth of concrete and steel into the dirt underneath the house in order to rebuild it, which makes it nearly and then you add on top of that the cost of things like lumber, which have doubled or tripled since COVID, right? And then if you could see the ocean, it's the California Coastal Commission. That's what Adam Carolla was talking about. And then you've got the seismic stuff, you've got the earthquake stuff, you've got the fire stuff, you've got the Santa Monica Mountain Conservancy, who are saying, all of that land, all of that Occidental Petroleum land, George, that the surface rights are held by the Santa Monica Mountain Conservancy. So the mineral rights are Occidental Petroleum. The surface rights are the Santa Monica Mountain Conservancy. So, and that butts up against all of those bluffs there. So you've got layers and layers and layers of bureaucracy. And these are all fallback. These are all epistemological fallback positions that are going to, basically anybody who doesn't have the wherewithal to be able to hang in financially and fight like a dog to get your thing rebuilt, they're going to wind up moving, which is why I'm encouraging all of my friends in Pacific Palisades to move to the Silver Strand in Oxnard, California. It's beautiful.
Yeah, good advertisement. And I can say something else about the low income. It's not low income. When they build those high rises for low income, those are like $1 million apartments. They would cost you in where they're located about $3,000 to $4,000 a month. They're 400 or 500 square foot apartments. Those are political operatives that are going in those apartments. And they're all over West Hollywood right now, where they put in supposedly low income, and they're 600 square feet, and they're $1 million if you wanted to buy those on the market. Those are political operatives.
Well,
of Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I moved here, because I thought even if they rebuilt 333 Swarthmore, I wouldn't be on a list to move back in, even though I was a resident in the building.
Right.
Well, low income, okay, when they talk about low income, what they're doing is they're setting the floor on rent with those low income, those low income units. And, is it a C40, 15 minutes? Are they going to be that? I mean, are they just, going to, play games here for 4 or 5 years and nothing ever gets built? And then finally they put up the glass and steel hamster cages and everybody moves in.
They're going to extend the red line up the PCH, and it's going to go up Sunset Boulevard, right? All the way until it gets to Tom Hanks' house. And then it's going to stop. I think it's going to be at the top of the hill, ending at the high capacity, high density, low income Gavin Newsom political appointee houses.
I think the real estate is like there's a reason why the Chamber of Commerce sold a T-shirt that said, "If you're rich, you live in Beverly Hills. If you're famous, you live in Malibu, and if you're lucky, you live in the Pacific Palisades." The luck ran out on January 7th, but it was what I call a Leave It to Beaver neighborhood. The first time that my wife ever came to visit me up at my place, there were 2 kids riding their bikes down the middle of the street. And she looked at me and she said, "Kids ride their bikes down the street here." I know that in a lot of parts of America, that doesn't seem completely odd or strange, but in Southern California, it's hasn't been like that since I was a kid, except in places like the Palisades. And it's because the Palisades was physically separated from the rest of Los Angeles. You couldn't accidentally be in the Palisades unless you were going there, right? And for that reason, it was this like magic little area, and they successfully erased it off the surface of the planet. It just doesn't exist there anymore.
This is a Chinatown movie, happening right in front of us. You said it was going to be a Chinatown movie before it happened with Peter Berggruen, Nicholas Berggruen, and it happened right in front of our face. It was Chinatown, and Peter.
I took a picture of Curtis Yarvin, in 2017, standing in the middle of burned Malibu. And he said, "Why do you want to shoot my picture here?" And I said, "Isn't your whole strategy for your philosophy to take over after the world's burned down?" And he looked at me and went,
yeah.
I didn't think I was shooting a self-portrait. I mean, I should have paid more attention to Richard Avedon, who said that all the photographs that you take are self-portraits because they're really about your perspective on the world. But, I shot that picture, that iconic picture of Curtis Yarvin standing in a burned field in Malibu. And little did I know that would be me.
Yeah.
We spent how many billions of dollars of urban renewal money removing tenements. Okay. And essentially we're reinventing the tenement, putting people back.
Right, but these are, I look at all of that money spent, and I just think it's money laundries. Whether or not it's your Apollo moon program or nuclear weapons program or urban renewal, I think that anytime you're talking about billions of dollars, there's I've told this story before. I worked for the National Security Agency on a Elon Musk inspired programs to innovate the National Security Agency. Peter Duke was hired to innovate the National Security Agency, but it wasn't Peter Duke. It was Peter Duke working for a consult. I did the work, doing the things that George was talking about at the beginning of the show. Okay. But I was working for a consulting company that worked 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 for the NSA. Okay.
Yeah.
And I was the one doing the work. So when that $1 billion gets spent, I can tell you that 10 million of it gets spent on what they say they're going to spend it on, and the rest of the money gets spent on consultants who live in the greater DC area.
Yeah.
So to
That's
me,
how
it's
it
just
worked
money
with
laundering.
Katrina. With Katrina,
I
it was like,
digress. You're muted, George, or I can't hear you.
sorry, with Katrina,
I still
it
can't
was,
hear you.
oh, how about now? Can you hear
I
me?
still can't hear you.
Oh.
I'll take you out and put you back in.
Okay.
Remove. Add to stage.
Can you hear us?
I still can't hear you. Maybe you have to leave and come back.
Let me
StreamYard is
change
really
audio.
letting me down lately. I don't know. Can other people
Testing,
hear
1, 2,
George,
3.
or is it just me that can't hear you? Maybe
Testing.
I'll
I
go
think-
check my settings. That's what we'll do. Peter will check his settings. And yes, the settings have changed.
Sound is good.
Up. And now the sound is good. So without touching anything, StreamYard. Oh, except my camera has changed now too. Look at that.
Yeah.
Do you think that somebody's got X agent and they're just messing with me, George?
I think what's happening is Oxnard's next on the controlled burn list, and get out now, Peter. No, I'm just joking.
When I was on my rant, did you hear the whole thing?
I heard you. I heard the whole thing. Yeah, you were audible. I just want to say that I do think it's political operatives. They're going to go in there. I do think they're going to try to put a little train line, a little trolley line to have some kind of, here's some dollars going toward public transportation. In Santa Monica, it runs almost all the way down to the beach, right? So you could run up the backside of Pacific Palisades up 3rd Street or 4th Street, right? You wouldn't have to go along Ocean Avenue.
7th goes down to West Channel and then back up Chautauqua.
Yep. 7th would be another way you could do it. And then have a little high, put in those high, like at the end of Santa Monica, as you start going up the hill, not Colorado, but a little bit beyond Colorado, where you start having those high rises, as you start going up the hill. I think along that back channel with Chautauqua going up there, the way we always used to take the back way up.
Yeah.
That's where they could put in those high rises.
Well,
back a little way. And then there was the ocean view.
Again, Peter Duke had more than one place burned down. Peter Duke's daughter and ex-wife and brother lived in a housing complex, and that complex was one of the only ones in the Highlands that burned to the ground. Both of those housing complexes that were on the west side of Palisades Drive burned to the ground. And again, I was there on the 8th. The fire wasn't anywhere close to it at about 11 o'clock in the morning, and there were 4 fire trucks with firemen standing with their arms folded 900 feet away, talking to each other like they were waiting for a bus. They weren't fighting fires.
I filmed them all. I filmed them all. I went all the way down to your house. Walking
No, I'm
along
talking about in the Highlands.
Yeah, in the Highlands too. Yeah.
There were a couple things that I had heard, and I would and I don't know, if there's truth to it or not. One, regarding this fire was allegedly there were direct energy weapons that were used, and the other was alleging that the smart meters were also creating fires.
Yeah, I heard all those stories. I believe that the drones that George identified that are similar. I'm not going to blame Drone Amplified, but there's a company called Drone Amplified. If you go to droneamplified.com, you can watch videos of their fire starter drones that they manufacture and they provide as a service to fire departments to fight backfires. Those are directed energy weapons, and they don't require any kind of spooky secret military technology. I think that those things are just diversions. I think that they knew that. Here's the thing: whenever there's an El Nino or an El Nina weather pattern that happens, I think in the Gulf of California or off the coast of Baja, I can't remember where it is, you get 70 or 80 mile an hour winds in the Palisades. Just happens whenever that thing happens. And I think they were waiting for the weather. They were waiting for the right, and they knew that when that happens, that you're going to get 70-mile-an-hour winds, and then they probably, and again, my guess is this was probably all done with a handshake deal in Geneva, Switzerland, or in Seychelles, or someplace like that, with operators who then went to, Sinaloa, or someplace down in Mexico, and contracted with, cartels to send people over the border with Joe Biden's, onslaught of illegals, and then put them in position to just wait for the wind. And when the wind happened, then they dispatched all of these people to go start fires. And when the sun was down and nobody was looking, they could also deploy these drones.
So this was, we say, multiple forces coming together at this juncture. It was like not one single cause.
Well, the Dragon drones have these little potassium permanganate balls that they can go house to house.
Right.
And then, as Peter said, you could hire just a couple of MS-13 also. And then with the smart meters, I do think there's some truth to gas lines, and these smart meters, when they burst, they do create a big high temperature flare.
I've never seen anybody prove that. I've seen lots of.
I've seen some videos, but I'm not saying that's how they did it. I'm just saying that one of the things I've seen, that the fires could have been continued from the inside by a high energy arcing. But anyway, not to.
Well,
show me somebody hacking a smart meter and making it blow up, and I'll believe you. Okay. I believe like we've talked about Rand. I think Rand is very good at making white pieces of paper with black letters on them that they spew out into the world as stories, and people believe that things actually happen. Maybe neutron bombs are real, maybe they're not, but at the end of the day, it's inexpensive to create stories and to put them out into the world and control and create confusion. When something that, my definition of magic is when you take something that's self-evident, like a fire starter drone and gang members with lighters, and then you wrap it in a mystery like directed energy weapons or exploding smart meters. Okay. And it creates confusion because people start looking for the exploding smart meters instead of looking for the gang members with the lighters.
That's why it's important for you, because you're there.
Right.
So we're hearing these things out here.
I didn't see, I was in a neighborhood. I was in a neighborhood where no houses were on fire when I left. The sky was thick with smoke. There was definitely things burning hundreds of yards away, but in my neighborhood where I was, nothing was on fire. And if that smart meter story, and it was between 10 and 11 o'clock. If you look at the New York, and I've made videos about this, but if you look at the New York Times animation, and admittedly it's an animation, but they're basing it based on data that they're using, that it was on the 7th when George and I were in a hotel. George and Jessica and I were in a hotel in Beverly Hills. George bought Jessica and me a room that night. Okay. That the fire spread exponentially. That is, if you look at the advancement of the fire up until about 9 o'clock on the New York Times animation, it was going gradually. At 10 o'clock, it exploded, and exploded everywhere. It exploded in Altadena. It exploded in the Palisades. And my thought, hypothesis, finger in the air, idea is that if you're going to run a fire starter drone, you're not going to run it during the daytime,
right?
When people can see it,
And Joe Biden was at that Santa Monica airport fire station, and that allowed you to throw the Q level, whatever it was, had presidential clearance, and the drones were run out of there as well. So again, this is it could be top secret with presidential authority. He was there that night. Right.
I'm going to tell Cindy that I'm amazed at her delusional ability and leave it there.
Well, I think everyone, some people want to say it's direct energy weapons. I was there. I didn't see any proof of direct energy. I didn't see the blue roofs in Maui or anything like that. What I did see, though, was a drone get hit and run into a plane.
And the person got arrested, convicted, tried and convicted in 3 days, and happened to be the employee of the son of Larry Ellison.
Yeah, a gamer.
Yeah.
And so I did see drones, and there was evidence of drones. I'm just saying, I saw physical evidence. I saw the hole in the side of and that's what stopped the water scoopers from running any more water. If you remember, that they targeted the water scooper and they put a big hole in the side of the water scooper, and so they stopped running water missions. So to me, that's a kind of this anti-aircraft drone saying no more water scooping, and we want this thing to burn down. So anyway, it is what it is. I'm glad you're in Oxnard. Hey, I was wondering, Peter, could I just give you a quick update of what we've been doing with AI?
100%. And we, if you got any questions, I'm here.
Yeah. Here's a real brief, these 5 words we came up with. Can you see we, me, NVIDIA, teach, watch, and trial? Can you see these words behind me? Okay. I'm going to explain each one of them means. Here's what we did. We had 10 different themes that we talked about with AI. Then we had 100 questions we went through. And we polled our group here of 7 or 8 people on every question, and we polled our audience, and it all came down to 5 words that we're going to be able to quickly go through with you. And so you're going to get the distillation of thousands of hours in seconds. Okay. So the first one, these are interesting ideas, which is the first one is trial, which is these things are being kind of thrown out like tariffs and whatever, low income housing or whatever. And it's,
I heard Aaron, I was listening to your show, and I think Aaron talking about it earlier about Twitter. Yeah. Twitter. And I've said this many times, Twitter is a sentiment it's a sentiment analysis farm. That is, ideas are trial ballooned, and then they go look at Twitter to see whether or not they're selling the ideas or not.
Yep. 2 is watch. This is also a technology. Data Dave said that as you used to search, and they used to say Brian Koberger is searching for where to get cheap gas in Idaho, and he's going over the Washington line to get cheap gas, and he's coming back. You don't find out about that. He's not trying to get cheap gas where it's $1 a gallon cheaper, right? He's the Idaho 4 guy because he's going across the border to get cheap gas. But they're watching, and the new AI queries that you make, these power searches are just like the Google searches, potentially incriminating, right?
Right. Well, yes, exactly.
And then now on the positive side, the first 2 or trial is kind of like they're watching you, and then watching you is like they're watching your queries. The third one was teaching, which Data Dave also mentioned, which is, you never before have humans who want to learn and be, young people who want to be great people, like your dad being a cardiologist or whatever. They have this capability now to have hundreds of PhDs to be their instructors, which is the flip side of AI, which is fantastic. You can have customized learning programs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've been doing with my SoundCloud channel. I've been taking all of the books that people don't have the time to read and turning them into AI generated podcasts, so that, if you want to.
Awesome.
Yeah,
those are awesome. And if you haven't heard these, what was the one on that goes back to the August Belmont in the 1830s with the Rothschilds?
That's the one on Hitler, and I think there's a play. So if you go to my SoundCloud, which is soundcloud.com/The Duke Report, and you click on playlists, I believe there's one called Core 20th century history. Here it is. 2 World Wars and Hitler book discussion. That's it. This is the one you're talking about.
And can you play a little of that?
Sure. Here we go. See.
Okay, let's dive in. When we think about the world wars, World War One, World War Two, the picture we usually get from history class is, well, it's complicated, right? Tangled alliances, nationalism boiling over, geopolitical chess games.
Right. That's the standard narrative. Complex forces colliding almost inevitably.
Exactly. But what if that narrative, the one we've all sort of absorbed, is maybe closer to what some researchers call popular fiction?
Well, that's a provocative thought.
It is. What if these immense conflicts weren't just history unfolding organically, but were in fact deliberately engineered, systematically set up?
And that's precisely the, let's say, challenging idea at the heart of our deep dive today. We're looking at summaries and analyses of a book called 2 World Wars and Hitler. Who was responsible? Anglo-American money, foreign agents, and geopolitics.
Right.
So that's it.
Okay. And then finally, we talked about NVIDIA, which is the most valuable company in the world now, $4 trillion, and Jensen Huang, and how he only uses chisel markers and so forth, and the advantage of that being a new model for business, and the immense amount of energy that's going to require. So small modular reactors, damming up these huge rivers in order to power the Colorado disappearing through the Grand Canyon because we need to power all this AI. That was another thing that came out about that. And then finally, we talked about
people can still drink the water after it goes through the hydroelectric dam.
Yeah, but I think what ends up happening is it evaporates or whatever when it goes through because it's penned up. I don't know all the details, so maybe it doesn't go anywhere. But finally, we said, we had this concept of, Mark brought up this concept, I give him credit here, which is, how we had the 12-hour workday, right? And then we had the 10-hour workday, and then we had the 8-hour workday. And maybe AI will usher in not everybody just sitting around at the beach chairs, but maybe usher in like a 6-hour workday, or maybe flexible schedules, or work at home, or whatever.
I think it's going to wind up being 6-hour workdays, whether you like it or not.
Right. I'm just saying we might have to get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, the trend that I see, I've got 2 daughters, and both of them are trying to figure out what the heck they're going to do. One of them's got more direction than the other, but they're both underemployed, I would say, at this point. And I'm not sure how they're going to be employed, which gives me, great pause. So
this is what Mark is saying too, is we have to provide some kind of vision and pathway and think about the visioning for our future of kids under 40, because they're going to be the lost generation if we don't, because they're going to be underemployed with the AI just replacing everything, or replacing, when somebody leaves a company, they don't rehire anymore. They say, well, you just guys are going to have to do more with AI. You know what I mean? And we wanted to offer a paradigm for that, to think about that people will move, hopefully, from thinking me thoughts, of how can I make more money? Can I predict the price of corn, pick stocks for me, make my vacation better? All these me thoughts, moving more to the we thinking, which is, how do we do cancer? How do we bring in Leroy Hood's research about the Hood triad for predicting pancreatic cancer, etc. So this maybe going from the me to the we is the big transition that happens with AI, hopefully.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I was listening to one of the podcasts that I made about a book by Veblen on the leisure class. And I think, when did you write that book? 1910, Veblen? And the point that kind of jumped out at me when I was listening to that podcast is that Americans, and it's the 401k mentality, and the idea is that Americans think that you work really hard, put your money into something so that you don't have to work anymore. And ultimately that winds up becoming a self-defeating strategy, because it's by virtue of working that we actually create stuff. And if you've got too many people who aren't working, who are trying to figure out how they make money off of not working, which is basically what investing is, then you wind up not creating new stuff, to your point, right? And I think that the key to the whole thing, and I wrote about this in the last 3 posts that I've got on Substack, which are all different versions of the same idea, which is that we need to move out of the knowing space that we're in and back into the thinking space. And we don't need the problem with AI is that it provides us with all kinds of different ways to know things, but it's not very good at getting us to think. And I use AI in a completely different. I spent all morning. I spent 3.5 hours this morning working on a prompt, because there's something that I'm working on with AI, and it's clear. I can share the prompt with you later, but it's clear that I don't use AI the way that 99% of the people use AI. Right? Most people are asking it encyclopedic questions, something that I think it's terrible at providing for people, because it's a slave to its training. But because it's a large language model, and primarily the way that I'm using it is to manipulate language, then I'm using it in a completely different way. More people need to learn how to use their thinking abilities. They need to be able to use their reason, their logic, their discernment, and leverage that stuff. And it's going to be more than trying to figure out how to buy low and sell high. You know what I mean? People are going to have to start to provide real value. And, you and I don't work 6 hours a day. You and I work every moment we're awake,
Yeah. And I look at AI to me as my unflinching, non-refusing commercial artist that will do whatever I ask it to.
Yeah.
Right. And so I do 10 to 12 to 15 AI creations a day, but they come from me and what I want to put in a picture, or, or what I want to summarize. I don't do anybody else's work. I only do mine. And I think that's where you get the creative enablement. If everyone would do that, you're better at communicating your ideas, etc. But it is a question that we need to keep asking ourselves: is how are these kids going to get jobs, and how are they going to be fully employed?
Right. Well, I again, this is a different way of saying the same thing, but the last thing that I wrote in the last big post that I wrote, which is neurolinguistic defense, what I said was that we can think our way out of not knowing something, but we can't know our way out of not thinking. And it occurred to me that I thought, did Socrates say that? Did somebody else say that? And one of the things that AI is pretty good at is that you could put something like that in there, and you can say, who else said this idea before? It's the way that I keep myself grounded. I will think of something that I think is an original thought. When I wrote my critique on Isaiah Berlin's concept of positive and negative liberty, when I was reading it, I was thinking, this is bafflegab. This is just nonsense. And I wrote a whole article about how I thought it was bafflegab and nonsense. Before I published it, I took my article, I put it into GPT, and I said, fact check me, and tell me whether or not anybody else has ever said what I'm saying. Well, it turned out that Wittgenstein, who was at Cambridge with Berlin in 1940, said the same thing I did. And I thought, he said it in 1940. And I thought, well, I'm in good company. I'm on the right path, and I'm in good company, because if I'm saying something that nobody's said in 65 years, or 85 years, then then I'm probably heading in the right direction. So I use AI to fact check myself a lot.
Yeah, it's like the wheel, everybody said, okay, all the litter bearers are going to be out of business, when the wheel came along. So we've had other fire, we're going to lose all the burning witches at the stake because now we have timber to build.
We're going to run out of whale oil.
Right. We're going to run out of conspiracy theories because they keep coming true. We've had all these things. We have to deal with crisis after crisis. So we'll deal with this one too.
Yeah, and we can get ahead of it. For example, I moved to Oxnard, and I was driving north on Victoria Road, which is a main drag here. It goes between a naval base and a marina. There's Air Force here, there's Navy, there's Seabees, there's all this stuff here. And they're building this big housing tract, like where there was nothing. And it reminds me a lot of the Palisades, only it's flatter, because it's a big neighborhood that they're building right next to the ocean, and everybody who lives in that new neighborhood is going to be right next to the ocean. It's going to be great. And I was driving by it and I was thinking, if I was 30, and I wanted to start a business, what kind of business would I start knowing that there's going to be 1,500 houses built right here? You know what I mean? Would I put in an Ace Hardware? Would I put in a UPS store? Like what, what would a cleaners, dry cleaners? That's probably a good thing,
Stop and go.
Stop and go. Yeah.
Well, I thought you'd put in a pizzeria like Snow Crash, Peter, and you would get a skateboard shop.
Right.
All the pizza delivery.
Yeah. Hero protagonist.
Yeah. In-N-Out Burger.
Oh, I'll tell you a story, George. I won't name the brands, but so I normally get my oil changed at so one of the guys who follows the show told me that there's one neighborhood in Oxnard that's basically gangland, and it is right next to Oxnard Airport and the switch yards. So there's a big switch yard and there's giant like Amazon distribution area, warehouse in Oxnard. Sometimes I order things and I get things in like 20 minutes. Like I'm exaggerating. Okay. Sometimes it takes days. Sometimes it takes minutes. Okay. To get things from Amazon here. It's weird. Right. But this weird gang neighborhood is next to a very small airport, railroad switch yards, and giant warehouses. And I was thinking, of course, that's the gang neighborhood. You know what I mean? That's
yeah. They know where their bread's buttered.
That's where all the contraband comes in and out, right? So anyway, I have to get my oil changed, and the closest place for me to get my oil changed, I normally go to Valvoline. I like Valvoline. If Valvoline wants to sponsor this show, I love Valvoline. Anyway, I found this other place. It's a competing brand of Valvoline. It's not Valvoline. And I go to this competing place. And normally when I drive into one of these oil places, I drive in. Sometimes there's a line, they wave me in, I drive in, they change my oil, I drive out. It's kind of like they've got it all set up like race cars, right? Like a pit crew, right?
Yeah.
And I drive into this competitor to Valvoline in this gang neighborhood. And I sit there for like 10 minutes and none of the cars are moving. And one of the cars, place opens at 8. I'm there at 9:30. Like nothing's really going on. There's cars in line, but I don't see anybody working on cars. I don't see anybody changing oil, And so long story short, it takes me a while. They tell me to leave my keys in my car and to go in and somebody will help me. I go in and the two guys who are sitting behind the cash register look like drug dealers. I mean, they look like drug dealers. And I won't go into elaborate descriptions of them, but and then the guys who are supposed to be changing oil, I see the two of them, they're in the bays and they're desperately cleaning a sink. They've got a brush out and they're cleaning a sink, like a spit and polish, like they want to make it shine or something, but they're not changing oil. And there's a bunch of people waiting, right? And they're not changing oil. The drug dealers who are running the place don't seem to be in any hurry to get people to change oil. And I look around and I think, this is a money laundry. Okay. This is like a franchise, right? that they bought. Okay. And what they do is that they go to the bank every day with the oil change money, right? And put it in the bank. But these guys are clearly not interested in changing anybody's oil. So I grabbed my key.
They could be changing a compartment, a secret compartment on the underside of the cars because it's hard for cops to get to those. I could see that.
Yep. And that might have been what was happening on that car in the bay that nobody seemed to be working on. Right. Yes, George. George adds the metadata. Right, exactly.
Right. And just like it, to me, that's the perfect way to, if your car is going to be searched at a stop, at a PCH stop, they can't get underneath the car. They can search all through the top of it, but they can't get underneath and start.
And maybe the guys were scrubbing the sink because they wanted to get the fentanyl like residue off the sink or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that the dog smells. If you're an unknown coming in there, the Kevin Timmer dog is going to go scratchy scratch on the fentanyl in the sink and everybody's going to jail. So it makes to me sense that they're scrubbing to get that smell off so the Kevin Timmer dog doesn't smell it. So,
yep. So,
and people are making fun of our Cocker Spaniel. It's not a Cocker Spaniel. It's a Cocker Doodle.
Yeah, exactly.
We have these crime dogs, and we have these cancer dogs, and they're going after our dogs now, Peter. I just
anyway. So I ran to Valvoline and got my oil changed, and I was very happy about it. And I will continue to Valvoline. Because I think Valvoline.
If I see your car is exploding one day in Oxnard, I'll know why.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't see that we've got any questions. I don't know if you did you want to did you have any more questions for me about AI?
Well, I want to do another one of these with you, Peter. I just think we got up so early. I started my day. I've got like an hour's sleep, and our day started at 5.
I saw that.
We're tired, and so I think we're going to hit it again tomorrow. But I would like maybe in a couple of days to do another show with you on AI. Because
anytime, George. Yeah.
This
process I use it all the time.
This 2-day process that you had, and then delivering all these deliverables and derivatives from the original work that you've done, as long as you're using your own work, is a really great topic. I can't remember what's the name of the Notebook NL or Notebook ML.
Notebook LM.
Notebook LM.
Yeah, and I just want to pimp this for a second. It's not my work, but let me see if I can go find this. Escape key. So there's a researcher on share this tab. There's two researchers who there's lots of people who do great work, but people who I pay particular attention to right now in this moment. This guy, Escape Key, is the most insane researcher on the internet. And he posted this article a couple of days ago called The Externalization of Hierarchy. And this is really, really interesting because in this article, he starts to tie what's going on with the World Economic Forum and the UN, actually with the UN, okay, and the World Health Organization directly to Kabbalistic ideas, okay? And he brings all the receipts in this article, but he is so in depth and he is so detailed. I'm calling him a he. I'm not sure. It could be I'll say they because I don't know that it's a he. They are so in depth and detail and stuff that you can get lost, kind of like Courtney Turner. Courtney Turner and Escape Key are so detailed in their research that it's kind of like every paragraph is a rabbit hole. So I haven't released it, but I did send it to them. I took this article and I just dropped it into Notebook LM to create a podcast about it. I read the article and I still felt like my head was going to explode. And one of the great things about Notebook LM, and I can pull that up here in a second, is that you can go in and take something that you may be above your pay grade as far as intellect is concerned, and just drop it in there, and it will make it into something that you understand. So let me see if I can pull up a little sample of that. So share this. So this is my Notebook LM. And let me see which one I did. I think it's just this one. And maybe not, because I don't see any of my outputs up here. Hang on a second. You could see I've done this a couple of times. Here we go. But it creates these podcasts. This is how I create these things. So I took the article by Escape Key and I dropped it in here, and then it creates a podcast that sounds like the things that you're used to hearing.
Oh, wait. Imagine this. You're deep into academic research, meticulously tracing how global public health ethics evolved over decades. And then you stumble upon something, well, unexpected. You find that the entire path, the whole trajectory, precisely matches a century-old occult prophecy. It sounds kind of wild, doesn't it? But that's exactly the astonishing alignment we're exploring in this deep dive. We're digging into how extensive documentation looking at public health's development from, let's see, 1966 to 2025 reportedly revealed what the source we're examining calls the systematic implementation of, well, a spiritual blueprint for global governance. And here's the real kicker. It supposedly culminates exactly as predicted, right in 2025. So to unpack this, we'll be looking at the core sources used in this analysis, things like official WHO frameworks, academic papers, institutional codes, international treaties, and maybe surprisingly, Alice Bailey's 1947 text, The Externalization of the Hierarchy. Our mission really is to explore how the source argues there's this precise correspondence between these two, seemingly total different realms, and what this analysis suggests it all means for global systems today. So our journey here starts with what the source describes as really meticulous academic work. It traces the evolution of public health ethics from 19...
So you get the idea. You can take anything. You could take a book. You could take a Substack post. You could, again, I look at these things that are 10,000 words long that somebody put together, and I think, do I have 3.5 hours? Do I have 3.5 hours to read this to determine whether or not it's something that is important? And that's one other thing. It reminds me of one other thing. Somebody sent me a video yesterday. And I did a whole video about this a couple of days ago. Let me see what I called it. I did a video on my Substack. It's one of the top ones on my Substack. It's the last video that I did by myself without you, George, where somebody, Courtney Turner, was talking about a book called The Infinite Game. And Courtney Turner read the book and did what Courtney Turner always does, which is great. Okay. Matt Ehret does the same thing. Good researchers do the same thing. They go and they read the book, and then they go through the book point by point, and they determine whether or not what the person is saying is valid or not. I don't do it that way. Because this guy named George Webb taught me that it's all in the metadata. And what I do is I look at the way that the thing is set, the way the argument is set up. So this guy, Shirik, I think, who wrote the book, The Infinite Game, I downloaded the sample of the Audible version of the book, which is him reading the book. And in the first 27 seconds of the book, he sets up a false dichotomy. Okay. And then, he sets up a false dichotomy and he supports it with a cause-effect complex equivalency. Well, if you've read my last couple of articles, you know that those are red flags to me, that this is going to wind up being bullshit. So I just stop reading at that point. And I think, well, Courtney has done days and days worth of analysis where she has gone through point by point and determined that what this guy is saying is bullshit. And I've confirmed what she said in 27 seconds. So I'm going to save myself some time and go back to working on my book and not spend any more time worrying about whether or not this book, The Infinite Game, is something I should pay attention to. The only thing that I need to know is that it's the plan that the globalists are using, and it's nonsense. So I'll leave it there.
Awesome. Well, everybody check out the SoundCloud that Peter has. I found it really very helpful as an on-ramp to some of these more like arcane books, like Tragedy and Hope and whatnot, or these other ones that are very heavily researched and a lot of footnotes. So yeah, check it out.
Yeah,
Peter,
and I have playlists. If you don't know where to start, there's one that says start here.
we want to pick this up again. I think we're all at our Energizer Bunny level is 0 to 1% right now. So we're all just
for joining me, George. And
no, it's a pleasure to be here. And I really want to pick up this AI thread with you because it is the future. It is every man, woman, and child. And if we don't think about it before it happens, it's just going to be like, being in a car accident. Well, let's see where the physics takes this. I'd rather think about it and come up with some creative solutions.
Indeed. All right. Somebody just asked me a question at the end, and I'm just asking this question so that I can go look it up after I hang up. Have you read the book Special Tasks? No, I haven't. But I'll do a screenshot of this, and then I'll go look at it later and let you know on a future show. Anyway, my dog is coming soon. Our dog is coming soon. His name will be Quigley. And with that, I will say, talk to you soon, George. If you guys want to support George, go to georgewebb.substack.com. If you want to support the Duke Report, go to thedukereport.substack.com and become paying subscribers, because that's how you keep this thing going. All right. With that, I will see y'all later. Bye now. Bye, George.
Thanks, Peter. Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye, everybody.